Absolutely, and we did just get word from the National Hurricane Center that it officially made landfall in Marco Island at 3:35 as a Category 3 hurricane, 130-mile-an-hour wind gusts I was just telling you about at the Marco Island Police Department. The wind's now down to 115. So the slow weakening trend is continuing, but that is not for you to let your guard down. It's still a Category 3 hurricane, and we're still expecting damaging winds. So we're going to try to break things down for you and let you know what the rest of Southwest Florida can expect here as we go into the evening hours. And as you can see behind me, the storm is really ramping up as far as the winds across Southwest Florida, and those winds, again, gusting up to hurricane force all the way as far north now as the Fort Myers area and in the Cape, and we expect that trend to continue moving northward as we go through tonight.
So you talk about 115-mile-an-hour sustained winds for where it's making landfall. What does that mean for people who are next in line? Does this weaken much by the time it gets up to the Lee County area?
There's a possibility that we could see it maybe get down to 110, so getting down to the Category 2 area or even farther towards the north. The good thing about where this thing made landfall is the fact that as it makes its northward trek, it's going to be staying over land for a while. So we're not going to be looking at it maintaining its intensity far towards the north like what we saw with that possibility of it staying just offshore. You can see here's where the eye is right now. Pardon me. You can see where the eye is right now, right over Marco Island, and the northern eye wall is about to push into the Naples area. Looks like it's right on top of there, Golden Gate. So it's right at the edge of Alligator Alley where it starts to turn east on I-75. And we're expecting Lee County, so Bonita Springs, you guys are going to be seeing these extreme winds push into your area very shortly. So about another hour or so, we're going to be looking at those winds moving into that area as well. So anywhere in southern Lee County and also in the Immokalee area, we're going to be looking at those winds in northern Collier County pushing up into that neck of the woods in and around the Corkscrew Swamp area, the Orange Tree area. That is going to be moving northward here in about another hour or so, and then eventually moving into the Fort Myers area. Like I said, I'd say right around the 5 o'clock time frame, 5, 6 o'clock, as it pushes off towards the north. So you can see there the timeline based on its forward motion. Pelican Bay at about 4:09, the leading edge of the eye wall getting there. Orange Tree, 4:19. Bonita Springs at 4:45. San Carlos Park, 5:27. And as you saw, that 130-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Marco Island. Now, we're still going to get some wind gusts in the triple digits and sustained winds potentially around 100 to 110. But we do expect the system to gradually, slowly, very slowly wind down, but we do expect more rapid weakening, though, as it gets a little bit farther towards the north. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Can I just read these times off? Because we know at this point a lot of people in our neighborhood are just listening to us on the radios. And I know that you said them, but I just want to say it once more. Sure. As many specific windows as we can give our viewers right now to let them know if they're just ahead of the strongest part of the storm. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that whatever part of the storm you're experiencing right now cannot be potentially dangerous to you. But right now, we're seeing Lely Resort in the heart of the orange on the radar. If you can't see us, you can at least listen to us. This would be so close to the eye. And now you might understand why last night they hastily called for, I don't want to say hasty, it was just kind of later in the process after some of the other evacuations that were west of 41 in Collier County. They said anyone in Lely who's in a single-story home needs to get out, again, in anticipation of that storm surge.
So here are those times if you live in Golden Gate, about 3:54. So we're looking at right now. It is 3:54. You are going to be to start feeling these effects. 4:15 Pelican Bay, 4:26 Orange Tree, and then Bonita Springs. You're looking at just shy of 5 o'clock. So, and again, Derek, I know sometimes we're repeating ourselves here, but let's talk about if you are in Bonita Springs right now. That green and yellow. I don't know really what that means, but you see the red. What's coming their way?
Now, that's not to say that the green and yellow isn't bad, because we were just looking at some video in the Cape where there was a big coconut palm that just fell over from some of the stronger wind gusts. See, we're starting to get into the hurricane force winds now in Lee County, now in portions of Hendry County. And this is going to continue pushing northward as well. So even if you're in that area that has the green, now, of course, the darker reds and the oranges indicate the heavier bands that we've been dealing with. It looks like there's a pretty nasty one that's going through the Fort Myers area right now and over at the Cape Coral. That will push northward, but the core of the very strong winds, the ones that just produced that 130-mile-an-hour wind gust at Marco Island, that is what's going to be pushing northward. Now, what's also happening is the reason why we're looking at that rapid rise of water. Remember I was telling you, the winds are going to start shifting out of the west and southwest, and that's what we're seeing now on the south side of that circulation. We're starting to see the winds come onshore. So we've already gotten that indication now that the water rise is happening rapidly in Marco Island, and it's going to continue all across coastal Collier County over the next several hours. So a very rapid rise in water, 10 to 15 feet expected of inundation of water above ground level in these areas. And notice the winds north of the circulation, though, coming offshore, the northeasterly wind that is continuing to blow all that water out of the Caloosahatchee River and out towards areas around Matlacha Pass and areas like that in Charlotte Harbor. So the water is going to continue being pushed out as long as those winds continue out of the northeast. But once we start to get that westerly wind, when the circulation center starts moving north of your location, the winds are going to turn back onshore. That's going to allow that water to start pushing back towards the coast, and we're talking a rapid rise in water.
So is it too early to say, I know we had talked previously about this thing kind of skirting the whole west coast of Florida. Is it too early to say, is this really going to go inland or how that's going to look?
The way it looks now, the movement is almost due north now. It's pretty much due north, and as a result of that,
it's like covering the entire state of Florida when you look at this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're getting tropical storm conditions as far north as I-4, getting up into up towards the first coast there. So St. Augustine and Jacksonville starting to get in on the action. And the computer model forecast tracks the latest spaghetti plots still kind of honing in on that coastal movement there, just inland or near the coast, all the way up I-75, so pretty much following the interstate all the way northward. We were thinking that this would stay a little bit offshore to keep a good chunk of the core, at least over the warm waters of the Gulf. That does not look like it's going to happen now. That's why I'm a bit more encouraged also with a couple of other things that we're looking at as far as the wind shear increasing and also the dry air being entrained into the system, that we may be looking at a more steady weakening than what we were thinking earlier if the core had stayed offshore. But it does look like the environment around the storm is taking a toll on the storm itself, and certainly with this staying over land longer, we're going to be looking at the land also contributing or helping to contribute to weakening as well. That's what we want. We want this thing to get beaten down so much to where it's not going to have the intensity that it's had the past few days.
So I personally know a lot of people who are probably watching us and streaming us if they're not in their homes and able to watch their TVs in Southwest Florida who did evacuate to either Orlando or the Tampa area or West Palm. So what is this good news, I guess, for those areas?
Further north?
Yeah.
Well, better.
Okay,
better news.
Yeah.
We're still, the latest forecast track keeps this thing as a Category 1 hurricane almost up to the Georgia line. And so we're still going to get hurricane winds, at least hurricane force winds, through a good chunk of the state, including the eastern panhandle. And by the way, that extreme wind warning, by the way, still remains in effect here through 5:30, and that is issued when we're expecting damaging winds, the extreme winds with the eye wall as it comes on shore. They issue these typically with Category 3 hurricanes or higher because you get those 115-mile-an-hour winds or higher with the eye wall as it pushes in. That's where you're going to get a lot of the destruction with those particular winds.
And when I say good news for people who evacuated to the center of the state in Tampa, I mean,
we know what you meant.
Yeah, if they're at a friend's home, I have a lot of family friends texting, what's it going to look like here? So we want to answer those questions too. Obviously, we all know that our homes and businesses in Southwest Florida are in imminent danger, really. We're not trying to scare people or hype this up. This is a scary situation.
Yes, definitely. But the trends are encouraging, at least for me, that this thing will stay over land. Now, these things wobble. They have a tendency to wobble, and we may see the center, at least the eye, try to hug the coast. That's still a possibility. But the more it can get over land, the more rapid I think we're going to be seeing the weakening. Now, that's not to say, and I don't want to say that if a weaker storm is not going to translate to a lower storm surge. That's pretty much set in stone. That's going to happen.
And that's the most devastating part of this storm. We can't say that enough.
That's going to be the deadliest part of the storm. And, of course, we're still looking at strong winds. So even though the storm may be a little weaker, anything triple digits, and even in the 80, 90 mile an hour range is still something to be, definitely have to respect those winds like that.
All right.
Again, a flash flood emergency right now in southwestern Collier County. Life-threatening flooding happening right now. Marco Island Police says your only hope is to get to a higher level, a second floor if you're in a single-story home. See if you can get, it's worth it, risking the winds and even the water that's sweeping in at this point to get yourself.
Roof, yeah.
If there's a condo nearby, try to go as high as you can. But they say at least to a second floor when we're talking about this kind of deadly storm surge. It's happening as we speak. So we know that this is also scary for people who have property in the area. We haven't forgotten about you. Derek said something that kind of bottom lined it. You might not find much if your home or property is in this area where we see the eye has come ashore in Southwest Florida. But it's the least of our concerns right now. We want to make sure everybody gets through this alive.
Safe.
We've heard our emergency operations officials saying on our special coverage here just moments ago, we're prepared for search and rescue operations.
Recovery
the governor says we're preparing for recovery. We want to come through this miraculously, and we can still do it if you can just get the information to someone who might still be taking a chance with this weather at this point.
We do want to go, Jillian Idle. She's in Collier County, really where the storm is bearing down right now. So we do want to go check in with Jillian right now to see what things are looking like there. Last we checked, it was still safe enough, at least in the building she's in, to take a peek out the window. They are hurricane impact proof. So let's go check in with Jillian and see what things are looking like.
All right,
Okay,
so
so
we're showing you a live look of what's going on in Naples right now, just to show you where you're looking right now. We've shown you the intensity of the storm is south of us, right? That's where the eye came on, Marco Island. This is just a little bit north of there. It's about 1.5 miles in from the coast. If you're familiar with Collier County, or if you're listening on the radio, I'll just describe it to you. First of all, those trees are taking a beating. Now, this is dramatic storm video. What we've shown you up until now is like, all right, that's a storm we've all seen before. This is, go ahead, Derek.
This is exactly why the extreme wind warning is in effect. Just look at that. I mean, and you can only imagine this is going to last for about an hour. And then the eye, and then another hour with the backside as it pushes northward.
And that's just the worst of it. I mean,
Yeah.
then you still have, on top of that, more time with still pretty intense winds.
Oh, yeah, and then we're going to still get winds in the 60, 70, 80, 90 mile an hour range for another few hours after that because the hurricane force wind field is so huge. It's a big wind field, so it's going to be another several hours of hurricane force winds that we're going to be dealing with.
And let me just describe for you, if you're watching this live feed on our coverage right now, or if you're listening to Four in Your Corner coverage on the radio, as we're looking out the window here, just to show you where we're looking at here, this is Immokalee Road and 41. Everything west of 41 in Collier County has already been evacuated. When you're looking at these conditions, you're starting to wonder, even being near 41 on Immokalee Road, I mean, east of there,
Look at that.
This is really intense images. So intense, in fact, we actually have reporters stationed there. We're not able to get all the microphones and electronics in a place for you. We're just trying to keep the camera secure. My goodness, it is close to some intense action right now. And again, this is north of where the eye is right now in Southwest Florida, or just slightly north,
well,
right?
This is the northern eye wall. So if we're talking about 41 and Immokalee Road, the really pretty much the northern eye wall is right on top of this area now.
So we're looking at that right now.
And you're looking at the blinding rain and the trees bending over in those winds. Those winds, just from eyeballing it, are easily 100 miles an hour. And we probably are seeing some 120 mile an hour, 130 mile an hour wind gusts, still like what we saw in Marco Island in this particular area. So Bonita Springs, if you're in this area, this is what you're going to be seeing shortly. Immokalee, this is what you're about to see in the next few minutes. You've already seen some gusty winds, some periods of gusty winds, but this is what the eye wall looks like. And you're going to have about an hour of this before things calm down a little bit. And then you'll get another hour with less rain of the same type of winds from the other direction. So if you come back to this shot, notice the winds are blowing from left to right across the screen. When we come back to the
almost
shot,
horizontal.
Yeah, pretty much. So when we come back to this shot, maybe in another couple of hours, the winds are going to be coming from right to left. They're going to go back the other direction.
All right, let me correct myself. We're also learning that this is this from
This shot is Collier Emergency Operations.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I was describing where the Naples Daily News building is.
Sure.
And this is Collier County EOC.
Yeah, so this is, and so you look at these winds and you say you get those gusts. It's almost like, Derek, I don't know if that's what that is. You see these like sheets of rain flying by. Is that the gust of wind coming with it?
Yeah, you're getting these, and a lot of times what will happen is you'll get the steady, sustained winds around 100, maybe 100 in this case. Then you'll start to see the screen just go white with a lot of rain, and those are those gusts, and that's where we're looking at those gusts maybe potentially going up to about 120, 130 miles an hour. That right there are triple-digit wind speeds, what you're looking at.
This is typically the images you see right before the camera blows out. Not necessarily smacked out of the photographer's hand. I feel pretty secure about where they're positioned here now that I know that they're at the Collier County Emergency Operations Center because they're surrounded by some experts in wind speeds. But this is typically the last things you see.
Right, power goes out.
Before, you just lose an image of everything.
Yeah, so that's the northern eye wall there. And that's That's what we talk about when we say the eye wall winds, where the strongest winds are in the eye, right before the eye. With these hurricanes, the greatest concentration of those stronger winds are centered in and around the eye. So, like I said, you get that buildup, and then big-time winds there, calms down, and then we're going to get winds very similar on the other side coming from the other direction. But with the bottom of the hurricane, the southern part of the hurricane is not showing as much rain. So there won't be as much rain on the other side, but the winds are going to be every bit as high as we're seeing now, but coming from the opposite direction.